Hello, and a warm welcome. I'm here in not so sunny South Derbyshire, and it's Friday, the 12th of July, and it's 10 o'clock UK time, which means it must be time for weekly wildlife wisdom. So I'm delighted to be back. I think I missed last week, didn't I? I was just in need of some rest, so I temporarily cancelled last week, which happens from time to time. But I'm very glad to be back and raring to go to share a little bit more with you about Wren wisdom, because Wrens are fascinating beings, and we're so lucky here that we have lots of Wrens around because we live in a rural area, very rural, and there's a lot of hedgerows and small pockets of woodland all around, which of course is the exact sort of habitat that Wrens love. And the other day I was out for a walk a couple of days ago, and I was fortunate enough to just out of the corner of my eye hear a noise of bird wing flapping and a bird sitting very close to me on the other side of the hedgerow. And I looked up and it was a little wren, which delighted me. They have their little sticky up tails. And then this wren flew over to a little fence, which again was only a few feet from me. And there was a second wren. And as soon as this first wren landed on the fence, started flapping their wings as if to say, feed me, feed me. So I knew it was a newly fledged wren with one of their parents, which was just so beautiful. And I stood very still and had the honour of watching them interacting with each other for quite a little while before they took flight off into the woods. And so I've been delighting in that memory, and also been seeing quite a few of them around and about. And in the Celtic tradition, which is where my ancestors are from, very much where my heart is in terms of that real deep connection and alignment with nature and Mother Earth, and taking care to tread lightly and to do good for the natural world. The wren is really, really important, as so many species are. And I want to mention at this stage, it's not just the animals that are important in the Celtic way of life. It's everything to do with Mother Nature. It's the trees, the plants, the grasses, the seasons, the different stages of life, and also the honouring of the life cycle as well. So there's so much goodness in there. And the reason I share this is, I suppose my own passion is that I've always been fascinated to know who these amazing beings are. And I've always known in my heart that there's so much more to them than we are led to believe in our education and from scientific studies. And I don't mean that as a criticism. I just mean that we seem to have lost that deep connection. And that's what I guess I've always been very drawn to reconnecting with. And I want to share that with like-minded others, and maybe people that have not quite understood but are willing to open up and listen and learn from the animals. Because I know in my childhood, being out in nature and being with the animals was such an essential part of me being able to grow up in a healthy way, and to deal with the things that happened in my childhood. And I always have felt so grateful, and they still do give me this, they give so much, this sense of peace, calm, balance, tranquility, and how to be in the world. So let's get into Wren, because I could talk about that for ages, but I want to get into Wren. But hopefully that gives you a little bit more of a sense as to why I do this, because I'm a wildlife artist in my day-to-day life. But it's so much more than just the act of painting and drawing. It's a deep passion and love, and desire to want to protect and help nature and wildlife. so that we can enjoy and benefit from their beautiful symbiotic relationships around all of us. We're all interconnected. So let's have a look. Let's get back to Wren wisdom. Well, I called this one Access Your Inner Sage, which for me is really what the Druids and the Celts believed inherently about the Wren, and that is that the Wren is the Druid shaman, so almost like the wise one, and that sage wisdom. And every time, in fact, I don't believe it, I do believe it, there's a Wren just flown into view outside my studio window. Thank you very much for that affirmation. Druid shaman. So whenever I see them, I always say, hello, Druid shaman. Normally in my head if I'm by myself, but I'll say it out loud if I feel like it. And this is because in their ancient traditional knowledge, the Celts saw the Wren as being a true wise sage. And so I think in our troubled human world, we really could do with as much help as possible to learn and reconnect to that part of us that is also a wise sage. Oh, hello there. We've got Susie and Robin joining. Hello, it's lovely to have you here. Welcome, welcome. And Susie says, oh, cool. I presume that was about the Wren appearing, which was magic. I mean, of all the birds to appear in that moment, just perfect. So what do the Druids and Celts say about the Wren then beyond that? So they would say, if on New Year's Day you were going out on a journey, so a little bit like other shamanic practices of going out, for example, the Aborigines and walkabout, so going out on a spiritual journey. And on New Year's Day, they said if you went out, if you saw a Wren, that would be a very strong, powerful sign that during this year, this time ahead, you would be able to access this deep spiritual knowing. So I always laugh because I see them so often out on my walks, and I always feel so very honoured and lucky, and that knowing that they're there and willing to get close to me is very, very special. So yeah, so what's Wren all about? I guess the key of it is about being super resourceful. Now, on first glance, that sounds like a very flippant thing to say. Oh, let's make good use of resources. But when you think about it, it's about all the skills and experiences that you have amassed to date in your lifetime. All those things that you've done. I mean, if I look back on my life, I've done so many different things and I've learned so many different things. Some are things that you think, well, I've learned that to know what not to do, or how I don't like doing things, or how I don't like feeling. But then there's lots of other things that I think, wow, isn't it amazing that when I was, 16, I learned to type, for example, which at the time I was like, why am I learning to type? But now, spending so much time typing on a laptop and on my phone, it's brilliant. It makes my life so much easier. So that's a simple example of just looking at all those skills and all the experiences that you have. Well, there's a rabbit now hopping across, hello my darling, the field. What little white tail bobbing up. Also, what materials do you have physically in your world around you that you can make better use of? And I love the movement in the world today with humans of really getting back to recycling, reusing, repurposing. I think that's so important. And this whole landfill mentality really, really needs to change very quickly so that we're not so messy and wasteful and putting things into the world that will not, degrade, they won't decompose. It's such a bad thing that we've done, and that's not to blame and belittle. It's just to say we can change that if we take a little bit of time and effort and thought, so that we aren't leaving so much of a mess in our wake. So that's another part of Wren resourcefulness, and also asking for advice and seeking advice from the right places. And that's very challenging in today's world. There's information everywhere, and everybody seems to have an opinion on everything. So it's finding, and this is what I love about Wren wisdom, is wrens are so small. I mean, I know there's lots of different wrens around the world, but in the UK, for example, the wren is probably about that big. They have a little sticky up tail, and they're very mottled brown colours, so they blend very, very effectively. But they're so small, but that means they can get into the detail, they can get into the crevices and the nooks and crannies, and they can find the good nuggets, all the little bugs and beings that they eat, and the seeds and things that they need to survive and thrive. And I see that with us humans as being about being willing to discern what is truth, what resonates for us as an individual, that makes us feel like we are following the right moral pathway. And so discerning and getting rid of the huge waves of information out there that may parade itself as being truth, but really in your heart you know it isn't. And there are things that we may have grown up with that feel normal, which doesn't mean to say they're good or right. And it's also being willing to sort of have an audit of that and say, well, what is it that I'm buying into still in my life that really isn't true, or it's designed to get me to behave in a certain way, or to do certain things, or to judge in a certain way, and to have like a sort of a bit of a stock take and get rid of things that really no longer serve us, because then we're in a position to be a lot clearer about the actions, the words we use, the things that we do and say, and the way that we feel inside ourselves. And I think that really is one of the key things, and that's why I love that idea of the wren being this wise being that doesn't take on nonsense, it doesn't waste, it doesn't cause damage. And if we can learn from that and make changes, and I always think small changes, little by little, are the way to go, that we can make a big difference in the world. So the wren basically says, be the wise sage you are capable of being. And be is the key word here. And why is that so important? Well, only when we are being in the moment, so that's not thinking about the past or being influenced by the past, and we're not anticipating and creating a future that doesn't actually exist yet and putting in all sorts of things that may or may not actually come to light. But being in the moment is about taking that space to observe, to listen, to notice, to look for the wise next steps, using all our available resources wisely, and searching and asking for guidance from our higher power, however we see that. For me, a big part of that is watching and observing beautiful Mother Nature and what she does and what she brings to you in front of you when you're in nature, in that lovely quiet silence. And unfortunately, that in our modern world is often really sort of poo-pooed. It's like, you have to be busy, 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 never a still moment. And that really is, again, out of alignment with nature. Yes, there are times to be active, to be doing, to be physically manifesting and creating, co-creating in the world, obviously, and very importantly. What that is really important. And for me, that's where the stillness and the being in balance in your day, in balance in your week, your months, your years, your life. There's a balance to be had. So a little bit like the tides coming in and out, there's a time for us to be still in the day and a time for us to be active and moving and doing. And I think where we need to focus and learn from the wren is that most of us are not doing enough of that being. And it doesn't have to take great swathes of time, but it does have to be a regular commitment and an effective practice as well. So, meditating, becoming still, switching off all the noise, switching off the Wi-Fi router, going out into nature wherever you can. It doesn't have to be completely rural. It can be a small park or a small garden where you can connect to the earth and the sky and all the beings that are there, always offering guidance and wisdom, and taking that time to ask questions of yourself, to ask for help and guidance and support and signs from your ancestors, from God, higher power, however you perceive that to be. And listening. Listening's not always with the ears, it's very much with the heart and the soul, feeling into the guidance, noticing signs. Like, I'll see the wren, and I know that that is Wren saying, thank you very much. I want my wisdom to be shared in the world. I saw a wren when I first looked out the window this morning as well. So again, I was like, okay, we're on the right path here today with Wren wisdom. So that feels good. Feeling that, whatever it is, whatever those signs are for you. And then with consideration and care and checking what's discerning of the truth, what is the truth for you, then choosing wisely what action to take. And I love also the Wrens, which is also about finding ways forward on your path towards your goals and your passion and your beliefs, but doing that in a way that isn't over active. There's a horrible phrase called running around like a headless chicken, which is a horrible analogy, but the meaning of that is going around busy, 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 doing 100 things, but probably most of them aren't actually contributing to what your most important goals and moral values are connected to. So filtering that out, taking less action after you've had and received and discerned wise guidance to take the next steps, and thus achieving so much more by doing so much less. So that's a real wise thing. You don't see animals running around in nature mindlessly just doing anything and trying anything. They are always considered. They're always concerned with the best, most effective way to achieve what they need to achieve. And that's something that we really could do with, because we're typically rewarded for busy, busy, busy. People having competitions to see how many emails they have a day, or people saying, oh, I don't have time to even sit down. I don't have time to do this, which is all mind-made, and there are secondary benefits. Oh, you poor thing. Or, oh, wow, you must be important if you have that many emails every day. All that sort of nonsense that really isn't true, and it really doesn't serve anybody. Highly effective action towards something that is serving the world, the most important thing. And that's what the Wren really, really talks to us about. So I love that. One last thing, a little story, is also to be wise and kenning. And in the Celtic tongue, kenning means knowing. And that is what I've just been describing. Tuning in, discerning, acting wisely. And there's an old Celtic story from the Western Isles of the Scottish Highlands that is about a gathering of all the birds. And the birds get together and they decide that in order to designate the sovereign of all birds, the king or queen of all birds, they will have a competition. And the competition is who can fly the nearest to the sun. And so all the birds begin with their intention to fly as high as they can, and some are doing really well and some are doing less well. And the eagle is one of the final birds to take flight. And the eagle, in his pride, knowing, which of course the eagles wouldn't actually have, but go with the story, goes up believing that he is the one that deserves to be the sovereign, because he is the eagle, the mighty eagle. And as he goes up, up, up and up to the highest levels, he's about to open his beak to call out that he is king. And a teeny little wren, unknowing to the eagle, had before he took off, nestled into his back feathers, and he just comes out and flies up a little bit higher and declares that he is king. And so the wren became the sovereign and the wise one that was able to work with the strength and the qualities of others, but was smart enough to be able to leverage that in a way that does no harm, really, because that's key to it, not doing any harm. And it's not about, you know, plagiarism or anything like that, but there are ways of being smart and able to act in the world that helps you to get to where you want to be in service of good in the world. So I'll leave you with that story. I hope you've enjoyed that. I love hearing that tale. And I love to talk about wrens. So I hope you enjoyed hearing a little bit more. I've got some eagles here at the top of my t-shirt. I hopefully will be back next week, which is Friday the 19th of July. I'm not sure who, as usual, but they will become visible, I'm sure, over the next few days. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you've enjoyed. I look forward to seeing you next week. And if you have any requests for particular wild species, do let me know. If you have any comments or anything you'd like to ask, please do use the comments box. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Susie. Thank you, everybody, and see you next week. Take care. Bye.